Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with jazz pianist and composer Daniel Jordon on behalf of Judson Green, also a very talented pianist and composer. We caught up with him on May 20th, 2020 to talk about all things music. He spoke on Judson's behalf, and he talked about both of their lives collectively in music. It's a great interview. Enjoy.
Thanks for taking a minute out, and I appreciate it.
Sure. Thank you for the support. Judson is remiss that he can't talk to you personally today, but I'd be happy to answer any questions or give you any background or let you know about the big projects that are coming up or questions about the album we're playing now.
I guess that's probably the crux of what I want to get to with you is, kind of the artistic approach that's going to go into now that you said there's new releases coming out.
Yep, we're anticipating. Actually, we're doing the final mix down now, and we'll go to mastering next month of another album of his original music that will be entitled Gratitude, and we'll drop that probably in the first quarter of next year.
So I guess that's my question. It's interesting, I think, for the artists that are releasing material during this pandemic. I mean, I think there's a chance that they could be very memorable because there's probably not a whole lot of albums coming out now, and people have the latitude to listen to these albums, but they can't back it up live. Just kind of talk to me a little bit about that approach.
Yeah, so our philosophy in this was he feels very strongly about his connection to his music. His music is basically stories about his family and his life, and he felt that releasing this particular project now, Discover, would take advantage of a wider audience. We released a couple of albums a couple of years ago, and then hadn't released anything. And he and I got together, and I said, "Boy, this would be a great time to release something and get back up on the charts." He's has had some really tremendous success being an unknown artist. And we had 10 weeks in the top 100 on Jazz Week for this particular release, and the two other releases we broke into the top 100. Those were several years ago, but that like you said, people have a lot of time to listen to music and to be moved by it. Basically, his philosophy of composition is coming more from a succinct presentation where that all of the songs are fairly short and they're more compositionally oriented rather than free-blowing sort of 4 tunes on an album. Everybody takes 10 choruses. And it's really interesting for me working with him because I have a very different background. I started my career with Maynard Ferguson and I've done shows and stuff and toured with acts and spent 10 years with Sam Rivers. So I come from a completely different aesthetic, but the collaboration between he and I has been almost seamless because we sort of complement each other. And basically, he'll play something for me and ask me what I think about the melodies and the chords and the arrangements, and then we put together a lead sheet from that and then rehearse the band and then go into the studio. And basically there's hardly any overdubs on any of his records. It's 1 or 2 takes for everything, sort of a old school traditionalist when it comes to those kind of things, and wants to capture what happens that day rather than spending, I told him I was doing a project for Larry Coryell, and we spent a day working on a tune. And we did 8 tunes in the day with Judson. And he said, "You spent 1 whole day on a tune?" I said, "Yeah, that's what the producer wanted us to do." So basically, I think his stuff is successful because we don't try to go at the sort of hard-blowing improvisational things and try to keep it a little bit more accessible to people that not necessarily think that they like jazz. And so whenever we play public performances or do seminars, people respond very well because they come up to me and say, the solos were just long enough,
Well, talk to me a little bit about kind of the hope for after COVID-19, when the audiences start coming back into venues and the musicians get back on stage. What realizations do you hope we all collectively get from this time away?
I'm hoping that people understand how valuable and how essential, well, first of all, the frontline workers and the people that have been grossly underpaid and grossly undervalued and devalued. And then next, the arts, which we're not frontline workers, but we have been traditionally undervalued and devalued in the society. And I think that people are understanding that when you separate yourself from just a capitalistic, materialistic society, which this has forced everyone in the society to do, that there are solace and places for refuge inside the arts and specifically music, and a way to modify your emotional state and work through really deep things that you're forced to face in this unprecedented time. I think that when we start coming out and people feel happy about coming to shows, I think there's going to be a deeper connection between the performers and the audience and the performers. And it sort of has made all of us realize how special and what a privilege it is to be able to express our ideas and our feelings and have people mutually come along on that ride with us, and that it transcends and is transcendent and needs to be transcendent in a time where the things that we depended on are not there anymore.
I think one thing we're realizing, too, during this time away from music and in quarantine is just how essential I think even art is in musicians. And because if we didn't have Netflix and we didn't have iTunes and we didn't have music and film and TV, we would be in a bad space. And I think that's probably something that should be universally recognized.
I think that people are subconsciously realizing that, and that when the music comes back and art in general comes back, visual art, the performance art, theater, that people are going to overtly understand what was missing in their lives and sort of value it a little bit more, and understand that the things that you can't take away from you, a special relationship, a connection, a feeling, again, a refuge or a solace for people, that they're going to value those experiences more and put more stock in what has been traditionally unvalued or devalued in the.
So I guess right now the bottom line is this: there's a lot of jazz musicians out there that have music, and there's a lot of very talented people. And you're representing Judson and yourself. Talk to me a little bit about, to my listeners, why should they choose your music? What is it about your music that is going to be totally good for them to get involved with?
Judson Green is a Midwestern man. He grew up in Quincy, Illinois, and has been playing the piano since the age of 4, and has a deep and firm and honest connection with his gift and with music. He writes from a place of inspiration the first cut, Discover, on Discover is a Moment Alone. It discusses some of his personal feelings that he's not able to articulate in words, but he's able to articulate in the music that is demonstrated by that cut. And all the cuts each cut is basically a little vignette of something that occurred to him in his life. And so, contrast with my music is an inspiration from notes, and an inspiration from practicing 6 to 8 hours a day and constantly searching for musical things. His is an expression of everyone's feelings, and his feelings specifically, and I think people can identify with his music more readily because it speaks a universal language. Whereas I think, unfortunately, someone who spends that much time practicing, a lot of what they speak about is what they know about, which is practice and music and the nuts and bolts of music, and that's not a universal language. The universal language is A Moment Alone, South Beach, Mr. Potato Head, which is about his grandsons, Take Me Home, which is a composition about him and his mother, Her Eyes, which is a composition about his wife and when he fell in love with her in college. And these sorts of titles and music is generated out of a specific scenario and feeling rather than an exercise in the harmonic minor scale or a set of really cool chord changes or some musical discovery. These are personal discoveries and personal stories that have been transferred into compositions. And I think that they speak to everyone on that level. And again, they're all under 4 minutes long. There's not long solos. It's compositionally oriented, much like a story would be. You have the title, you introduce the characters, you have something interesting happen, you have a climax, a denouement, and then you wrap it up and it's done, and you're ready for the next one. So I think that that's why his music particularly is accessible to your listeners.
Perfect. Hey, man, thank you. I think you really encapsulated what I was looking for. Thank you for taking some time out. Thank you very much for sending over the music. It's been wonderful. I look forward to giving it out, and stay safe with all of this craziness in this world going on now.
Absolutely, and we want to thank you so much for the support that you personally and your station has given to us, and I want to express Judson's gratitude to you for your support.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Daniel for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at YouTube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.